I'm giving somebody the blues today.
In this video, I want to explore the fate of Jin Kazama in Tekken 8 because I believe he will most certainly die. I recently hosted a poll on this channel where I asked a similar question. Who dies in Tekken 8? Jin, Kazuya, someone else? Maybe no one. No one and Kazuya were tied surprisingly. Jin Kazama was the loser, only 6%. So if pretty much every player out there either agrees that Kazuya dies or no one dies, why am I going against the grain and saying that Jin will most certainly die? Why is that? 3 points that I want to break down in this video. Number 1 is obvious. Predictability. Kazuya dying in Tekken 8 would be extremely predictable. Every Tekken player sees him coming from a mile away, and that would be a huge waste of Kazuya. Potential is what Kazuya holds. This character should be built up as a true threat, an unstoppable force. I often play around with the idea of Kazuya killing off another character, and even though most players don't like that idea, the point that I'm trying to make with the argument is that Kazuya should be feared, he should be dangerous, he should be a threat. Jin has so many allies on his team assisting him with taking down Kazuya, so use some of them to build up Kazuya and make him really threatening. What's the point of having this entire team, Jin Kazama, if you can accomplish it all on your own? Think of the most iconic villains, Darth Vader, Thanos, whoever comes to mind. Think of how many victories these characters have seen before they would eventually be defeated. Everything the main villain achieves makes their defeat that much more valued. Kazuya needs to be dangerous or the story will be extremely predictable. He can die eventually, Tekken 8, Tekken 9, whatever. But until that point, he needs to be unstoppable, dangerous, and we need to see that. Not hear it, not tweet it, the information, but shown it through story. On the topic of tweets and the developers, this brings us to number 2. Harada said, "Don't ask me for The devs have been dropping hints of story all year. One of the most important pieces of info Harada said is in an IGN news article almost a year ago. He was asked which character would he throw off a cliff if he could choose. Even though this is a hypothetical question, it is very telling. If I had to pick one from a positive meaning, it would be Jin Kazama, because his father, Kazuya Mishima, and grandfather, Heihachi Mishima, have each had their turn, but he hasn't. Not to kill him or anything, but to force him to the next level, to be a better version of himself. I just think throwing him in a volcano might help with that." That's what Harada said in response to the question. So here Harada is basically saying he feels like it's Jin's turn to lose. And I would agree. When you have a character who just wins over and over and over, never losing, the story can become very predictable and very boring. But a character like Kazuya Mishima, Heihachi, when you have a character who can die and death is almost certain for them, their triumph is that much greater. Jin is the complete opposite, where you know he's going to win. In Tekken 7, Claudio literally said it. Jin Kazama's devil gene is stronger than Kazuya Mishima. So we know if those two characters collide, Jin probably would come out on top. So you gotta do something to make it interesting. Having Jin lose would be surprising, yes, but it would also serve a purpose beyond just subverting players' expectations. This is a trap that Hollywood falls into a lot. It was kind of the detriment of the Star Wars franchise. Subverting viewers' expectation can be dangerous, but for Jin Kazama, it would serve a purpose. The purpose is to push him to the next level, as Harada said. So now the question that we need to answer is, what is the next level? What does that mean for Jin Kazama? Well, for one, Jin has been struggling with the Devil Jin ever since he unlocked it after being killed by Heihachi when he shot him in Tekken 3. Gaining control over the power is something that's always been teased for Jin Kazama, but never accomplished. Maybe Tekken 8 will finally be that step. In Jin's bio for Tekken 8, it said that he somewhat masters the Devil Gene in his sleep during Tekken 7, which in hindsight is kind of obvious. He sleeps for most of the story, and then at the end, he can now summon the Devil Gene and he's ready to face Kazuya. So he believes. However, we see in Tekken 8 it's more complicated than that. We see Jin summoning one wing in one instance and 2 wings in another instance. Jin being able to summon one wing was described by the devs as partial control over the power. Partial. This is something we never seen before, but it makes perfect sense when you talk about one wing. So that brings up the question, what is happening when he summons two wings? Me personally, I think that's him losing control over the Devil Gene, and that's Devil Jin emerging. Jin died in Tekken 3, which unlocked Devil Jin. In Tekken 7, Jin experienced something crazy in his dreams, which gave him partial control over Devil Jin. I believe in Tekken 8, he will die again and will unlock full control. Keep in mind, we've seen his soul trapped in the desert world, and Jun Kazama was walking around looking for him. If Jin Kazama's death is pretty much certain, the question is, so who kills him? It can't be Kazuya. Kazuya's goal has always been to absorb Jin's Devil Gene to make himself stronger, so killing him in Tekken 8 would go completely against what the character wants. You could say that maybe Kazuya takes Jin's Devil Gene and then kills him after. That would make sense, but once again, I don't think Kazuya would do that. Kazuya and Jin Kazama never really had a grudge to the point to where Kazuya would go above and beyond and kill him the way that he did Heihachi. That was something that was destined. That was revenge that Heihachi had coming. Jin and Kazuya is completely different because their battle has always been tied to the Devil Gene. So once again, if it's not Kazuya killing Jin, who is it? I have an idea that explains perfectly how Jin is killed and without Kazuya being the one who does it. But in order to explain, I need to give a spoiler warning. I will now be discussing a certain leaked character who hasn't yet been revealed. If you don't want to know, leave now. Now I want to talk about Reina's introduction. Reina is another Mishima and said to be the child of Heihachi and also the replacement of Heihachi. Heihachi is a legendary character and many players would argue you cannot replace him. So if you are going to replace him as a developer, you got to make that character really badass. You gotta go above and beyond with her design. When Reina makes her appearance, she must be better than Heihachi in every way. And I mean that respectfully. Kazuya just killed Heihachi. As a viewer, we would assume Kazuya would also be able to kill Reina easy peasy lemon squeezy. But what if he can't? What if Reina is stronger than him? What if Reina has been studying Jin and Kazuya and after Heihachi dies, she put all that training and all that study to use? She comes out of hiding and she addresses both of them. Kind of like what Akuma did, but this time the job actually gets done. Kazuya can't kill Jin, but Reina definitely can. Keep in mind, Heihachi had two goals in Tekken 7. Get rid of Kazuya and get rid of Jin. He did neither, and now it's Reina's turn to make her attempt. And now I know people watching are already typing the comments saying Reina cannot compete with Jin Kazama or Kazuya Mishima. They're too powerful. But in response to that, I say, what about Lars? Lars is just as powerful as Jin and Kazuya, and he has no Devil Gene. He's been fighting them in Tekken 6, and we know he can keep up. You can also talk about how other characters are able to keep up with the Mishimas. Paul Phoenix, Harang, it's not impossible to match their output. Yes, they always have that extra little bit in the tank and they just win, but what if there's one character who just knows too much and they're just too good and one time they get lucky? That's all it takes is one. Reina being introduced as Heihachi's replacement, she would need to make a statement. And what better way to make a statement than doing what no one else before her could and kill Jin? No guns, no tricks, simply being a better fighter and destroying him. If you really wanted to not really make Jin seem like a scrub, you can give him a bad day. Maybe he just fought Kazuya. Maybe he just fought Claudio. Maybe he's tripping off the Devil Gene and she just catches him off guard. There's many different options you can go, but Reina killing Jin and sending his soul to the underworld, having everyone scramble to try to rescue him, would be an amazing turn of events. Not only does this make sense and perfectly tie together everything we've seen so far, but it also shows Reina to be a very serious and dangerous character, and would also make her battle with Kazuya one of the most anticipated events in all of Tekken. Kazuya did the impossible in Tekken 7 and killed Heihachi. Imagine if Reina does another impossible and kills Jin in Tekken 8. Who would win if these two faced each other, Reina or Kazuya? This is the question that would be on every player's mind, and we would be dying to see that battle play out. Whether it's a cliffhanger for Tekken 8, whether it's story DLC, whether it's Tekken 9, seeing Reina versus Kazuya Mishima after the death of Jin Kazama would be historic. Just looking at everything we've seen and heard so far, this is my thoughts on what Tekken 8 will offer in terms of story. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.